What's up, guys? Dave back here with another ad-free episode of FFBE War of the Visions. In today's episode, I'm going to be going into quite a bit of detail on how raids work and the different mechanics. Now, this is based on my experience on the latest raid on JP. I don't know everything, but I want to share all the information that I do have. We'll go into boss types, room types, general raid mechanics, and then the fight mechanics, and then I'll give suggestions for each characters. Now, the video again is pretty long, so I'm going to put timestamps in the description so you guys can jump to whatever part you want, and you can skip over things that maybe you're already familiar with. So without further ado, let's jump right in and take a look. Alright guys, we have a lot of information to go over, so I'm going to do one thing at a time. Alright, so there are two different types of bosses. Now in this raid that's supposedly coming to global, the chocolate pudding, I'm not sure if it has a bonus boss, but typically there's something like a 5 or 10% chance, don't quote me on that, whether the bonus boss will appear or not. And the bonus boss has increased drops, but it could be a different element. I'm not sure, again, if we have one in the first raid and what the percentage is. Second, in the top right corner below the shield, there's 3 different room types. So the top middle one, it's solo play. Maybe for low level bosses, no problem. But once you start getting into high level, if you want to take on 90 or 100, whatever the maximum is for the first raid, it's 100 on JP for the Ifrit one that I just did, but I'm not sure what we're going to get. But once you get to the top boss level, even for whales at this point in the game, even in JP, who's going to have 4 wind gunner units? They don't even exist yet. So that's why the other 2 options exist. So bottom left, we have duo. Each player takes in 2. So if you have like Yerma, Lucia, or maybe even better, Sosha, Lucia, something like that, that might work. Or one person, well, we'll get into that later. Then 4-player play right there in the bottom right. It seems like that's what most people do. It looked like 90% of the rooms that were posted were that. And a lot of the videos that I looked at online, people were having trouble doing the solo ones once it gets up too high in level. So there you have the boss types and then the room types. Next we're going to go into general mechanics. Okay, so I'm going to explain how the raid works. So just like the Chocobo event, just like the Whimsy shop, after running an event or some type of a match, whatever, that uses energy, you have a chance at popping up the raid boss. Now, it's much more frequent. It's a much higher chance than the Whimsy shop. So don't worry, it's not once a shop refresh or once every 800 energy, etc. It does pop up more often. But you have to be careful because if you have auto on, they didn't add the feature in JP to actually go in and do the raid boss until after the Ifrit raid was over. They're like, oh, come on. But if you have auto on, just be wary that it will cancel out the raid. So you might want to be watching it if it has auto on, or manually go into the next fight each time. Okay? All right, having said that, once the boss does pop up, you have a chance to challenge it. Now, you can challenge it in any of those 3 room types that I previously mentioned. Now, when it's your boss, and what I mean by your boss is you're not joining another match, multiplayer, you will use up a raid orb. Okay, so you have 5 raid orbs, and you can get refreshes. I'm not sure how many Gumi is going to give us for free, and there's probably a limit to how many you can do per day. So each time you defeat your boss, the level is going to go up. So if you just keep joining multiplayers all day, your boss level is not going to go up. Again, that's based on what I observed on JP and the Ifrit raid. It might be slightly different on global. They might change it, so don't quote me on that. All right. Again, there's a chance that you'll get the bonus boss there as well. Now, you don't have to do your own boss at all. If you have a really weak team, you can join multiplayer games all day, no problem. Now, if you don't beat the multiplayer boss, you can still collect rewards later, even if they defeat the boss. So let's say you go in, you only get them to 40%, it's done. So you get the rewards for coming across that boss, right? but that's it. Now let's say the person redoes the match while you're in it, and then you defeat it. Then you get the rewards there. But if not, that player can do it later in the day or with another team. Let's say you failed because your unit was weak or another unit was weak and they don't want to deal with those units. So you will get the reward later when and if they complete it. And you can keep stacking that up. You can join 10 games, fail on all of them. They create another room with or without you in it later, and you can collect all of those rewards later. Okay, so that's great. And you don't use any raid orbs with multiplayer. So those are pretty much the general mechanics. Next, we'll move into the fight mechanics, and I'll explain like which characters are going to be strong. Okay, so fight mechanics. This is a little bit different from anything we've experienced thus far. Now, the reason you want chains, the reason you want max damage boosters, the reason you want steal time, is because you only have 20 player turns max regardless of room type. So whether you're doing it solo with your units, doesn't matter. Whether you're only doing it with 3 people out of 4, doesn't matter. You get 20 player turns max divided by the number of units in the match. So if you could solo it with 1 unit and you'll get 20 turns, or you do 4 units and each one gets 5 turns. That's up to you, but you cannot increase the 20 turns. Once you do that, the fight will end with whatever hit points are left, and you have a chance to challenge it again or just let it go. Okay. The boss has other mobs on the map with it. So what does that mean? You need to have strong units that go in there once the boss levels up, because those mobs also level up. And I've seen people get owned by taking in weaker units or having bad armor on those units, or just having bad elemental resistances against it. All right. So you want good characters to go in there. And this is you also don't really want to put auto on when you get up in level. The reason this is bad is your units, or rather the AI or the ASS goes after the units with the lowest health or units that it can one-shot. So by going in there with the auto on, it's not going to go after the boss. It's going to waste precious turns that you can't afford to waste on those mobs. So if you're fighting a level 90 or level 100 raid boss, 1, you need the strongest of strong units. 2, you need to chain, etc., or steal time. You can't be wasting even 1 turn on killing those mobs. So you have to have units that are going to be able to take a couple hits from the boss and or those other mobs on the map. All right. Now you're going to need to perform a chain plus steal time. Steal time isn't absolutely required. It depends on what units you have available to you, what the boss weaknesses are, etc. But how steal time works, agility gives you X amount of CT per turn. Once you reach 100, or you have the highest out of all the units there, it becomes your turn. So by using steal time, you take away the boss's CT that they build up, and it makes it so that their next turn is further away, which allows you to get a longer chain in before they take their next turn. Okay, so if you have a bunch of units that only do a chain of 1, or if you just want to get in more damage, etc., steal time is very useful. I would say it's more useful for players who have units that can't produce high chain numbers like Lucia. Okay. Then you also want to build up units that are, have an elemental strength against the boss, and attack strengths against the boss. So those are the general fight mechanics. Now we'll go into maybe some characters that you can use. Okay, so up on the screen in the bottom right-hand corner, we have a look at what the boss is going to be. Now, as it goes up in level, these resistances do change. It gets a little bit stronger, it gets better stats, more hit points, etc. It wouldn't be a challenge if it didn't. So if everything is as it was on JP. This is what we're looking at. Now this is level 9, it's not level 1, but we'll just use this as a reference. So it has minus 15% missile attack resistance and minus 10% magic resistance. So what does that mean? That means any gunner or ranger units or any magical units are going to have the strongest attack type advantage. Now as far as elemental, basically anything but lightning is decent and wind is going to be the strongest. So this is basically a big up yours. Your reign is over Orlando, right? So your Orlando is going to do 25% less damage to this unit. Now, can he still do decent damage? Yeah, he can. You can cut defense as well, but I don't think he's going to be the best unit for taking this down. All right, now I've put some of the best units that I think. Now, this raid, I mean, hands down, it was made for Lucia, okay? Because of you get 25% right there. And she cuts defense when she's in tune-up, 40 defense penetration. So she's going to be the best unit. What you do is you use the quad shot to start the chain, and then you use double trigger, again and again and again. I'll show you a screenshot of that after this. Now, next unit I'd recommend would be Sosha. Now, she's only an SR unit, but she does have the Ranger, and she is a wind unit, and she can hit fairly hard as well. So she will be able to not only continue the elemental chain, but she'll also be able to continue the physical missile chain with Lucia units. So if you want to do a duo with your friend, you can both use both of those units and do that. Or you could do Lucia, Sosha, Lucia, Yerma. Okay, now I've put Yerma in the bottom left-hand corner there. You'd want her probably with Steal Time in the Thief thing. Yerma not only is a wind unit, but she can also steal time. Now, she does get minus 15% on her attacks because of the slash resistance the boss has, but she does a lot more damage than Lucia to begin with. So if you're going all slash, like 4 Yermas, minus the number of the chain, she should be doing around the same damage per hit. Now, I put a big strike through on Ayaka. So yeah, she is wind. Yeah, she is magic. So she should have a 20% advantage, right? No, wrong. None of her magic abilities have any elemental type. So Comet, Meteor, no elemental type. Ruin, no elemental type. And Holy also is not really holy. So even though she's wind, she doesn't have any wind magic attacks. So if you need her there as a healer or just like emotional support, great. But she's not going to really help you take out the boss. Now, I put Mediana in the top right corner. Why would I do that when wind is the strong element? Well, have you taken a look at her limit break, Cosmo Plume? All right. So we have an innate minus 10% magical resistance. Cosmo Plume does minus 18 to minus 38% ice resistance. Okay, what does that mean? If you out at level 10, minus 28%, you have minus 38% ice resistance, or plus 38% damage, basically, on the chocolate pudding. So that's way more than Lucia gets, right? But Lucia is still going to probably be a little bit better in the end because just the number of the chain. Right, so you have 4 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. So, if you can only do one turn from each Lucia before the boss takes the turn, that's a chain of 10. Whereas with the Medianas, even though she's faster, right, maybe you get a chain of 5 or 6 in between there. But Mediana, yeah, she's probably going to do a lot more damage because you could just do Limit Break, Blizzaga, and then just repeat that, stagger the limit breaks with everybody. And the limit break might also take out the other enemy units, which will help you as well. So are there other combos out there? Yeah, there's probably a ton of different combos. These are just a couple that I'm suggesting for you. Play around. For example, Miranda, she has a resistance break, right? So she can drop the spirit of the enemy unit by 18. So even though she could just sit there and haste and break the spirit on the boss while 3 other units attack the boss. So there's a lot of other different combinations out there. On the latest JP raid, the Ifrit one, the best combination was actually 4 Rains to fight fire with fire, because he had Undermine. He broke the magic, the spirit, defense, and attack of the boss, and then just chained after that. So you could use Miranda to break that. There's probably other units, I think like green mages and stuff like that, can drop resistances. So there's many different routes to take to defeat the boss. So, I mean, play around with what units you have and find out what's strongest for you. All right, so here's a sample of a picture that I had in a previous video. This is, 4 Lucias against the Ifrit raid bonus boss, the Cactar, who was an earth element. So as you can see, they have a chain of 15, quad shot, double trigger, etc. and you repeat it. I think the Cactar, he only goes up to level 10, I believe. But at level 3, probably has pretty low agility, so you can take multiple turns before he does it. But the problem with that raid was Lucia, she's a gunner, so she can't go up and down many squares, and trying to keep him not too close and not too far away was pretty difficult. But that's an example of what you want to do in order to take the boss out. Create as long of a chain as possible before he takes his turn to get the most damage in. All right, now this is a clip I took from JP. These are the rewards. So as you can see, there's solo, pair, quartet. Then as we scroll over to the left, there's normal and rare. Rare is the bonus boss. Okay. Then on the left-hand side, there's 4 different types. Sougusha Hoshu, that is the person who came into contact with it. So if it's your boss and you create the room, you get extra rewards. Okay, the second one down is Sansen Hoshu. That means you participated in the battle. Okay, so there's also 5 different types there. Then you have Tobatsu Hoshu, which is for defeating the boss. And as you can see there, as you go up in level, you get rare rewards. All right. Then you have ranking rewards, and this is after the whole raid has been over and the results have been all calculated. All right, so I'd show you a preview of what the reward screens are going to look, what the different types are. Now let's take a look at what we have up on the screen. So those are some of the rewards received. And now as you can see, it does have the Void Mega Crest. So the key here is for free-to-play players or players who don't play that much, you're not really going to benefit the most. This is for, like people who play a lot, or whales or dolphins, basically. Because if you don't defeat high-level bosses, you're not going to get the materials you need to awaken the weapons. Okay. All right, so the reward thing on the left, I put an arrow down. Some of these rewards, like the Mega Crest and the orange smiley faces, etc., you can use those to create and awaken the Gladiator Staff, or Arena Staff, or the Free Match Platinum Armor. So I'll give you suggestions based on your playstyle in a bit. Let me explain the Alexandrite Ring first. All right, so along with a bunch of different rewards, there'd be things like chocobo tickets and stuff that you might want to pick up every day, or you might not want to, because the UR is limited time. Chocobo tickets, like, you can get those from other different things. So I'm always going to recommend going after the limited time things. All right. Now they do come back in later raids, but still they're UR and they're difficult to come by, and they're very strong. So the amount of tokens you need for one UR recipe is 2,000 plus all the mats. All right, let's take a look. Alexandrite Ring. +5 gives you +20 aim, and then a 5-star gives you +5 all resistances. All right, so even if you can't get it to +5, I recommend getting it to +3, so you get about half, maybe 8 aim, and then you still get all the +5 resistances, because that's probably the strongest thing on the ring. Now, down below, I have two different types. Vital is a complete piece of garbage, avoided at all costs. But on the left side, probably the one I will go after is critical. Now, there's 15 critical, and it still has 10 aim, and you get 20 aim if you max it out at +5. So that's 30 aim and 15 critical. Now, the one on the right is aim, which is also really good. That one has 20 aim plus 20. So that one has 40 possible aim, but the critical is very low. The other one has 30 possible aim and pretty high critical. So if you don't have much time, or you're free to play, or you don't have the right units for this, I would at least go after a +3 version of each of these. So it's not going to be a super ton of recipes. I think it's something like 15 recipes you need for each one. You can just max that out, then you can get your rainbow elements, rainbow spheres and shards after that, and then maybe work on anything else that you need. But they're both really good. And then if you have extra void materials left over, you might want to use those on gladiator staffs and whatnot. And don't worry if you're going after a +5 or +4 and you can't do it in the first raid. All of these items do come back in the future raids. However, it's opportunity cost, right? So in the future raid, yeah, you can keep working on your Alexandrite ring, but you're going to lose out on the platinum robes or the platinum helm or whatever's coming up next. Okay, so this is a general idea of the rewards. So based on your play style, plan out how far you want to go, because the raid is going to be very grindy, and in order to get all the mats that you need and enough tokens, you're going to have to clear high-level bosses again and again and again. And it's going to be probably tough to do it in multiplayer rooms. And if you can't do it with your own boss, or you don't have the energy or the time to just sit there and hope the boss spawns, and then hope you can get your friends or somebody in there that's halfway decent to clear it with you, it's going to be more difficult. So it is more difficult than the other ones, but it's a high risk, high reward event, unlike the other types of events that we've seen thus far. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have for you for raids as far as information. Hopefully you can look at the boss stats, find out which units are strongest against it, maybe what rewards you want to go after, or how far you want to go after it. But the raid is going to be a lot more time intensive than the other things. You can't just put it on auto farm like the brutal Iron Giant if you're strong enough, or the current Ras Al Ghathi where you can just pop energy, go AFK, and farm it. It's not going to work like that. You can't just casually join a multiplayer match. You're going to have to manual it. So it's a lot more grind intensive, but again, high risk, high reward for the people who do put in the time. But if there is one event that you focus on, this is the one to do it, because the rewards are even better than the tower. The raids have the best rewards in the game so far. All right, so what I have up on the screen right now, just as a closing note, our guild, we are looking for active players. Now, we do have a full roster right now, but there's inactive players that we want to kick once we do have active ones. So I'm looking for people that are, one, going to take part in guild battles a lot, almost every day, and two, somebody who's going to be available to do voice chat on Discord and coordinate attacks on raid bosses. See, you don't have to have all the best units. That's not what we're asking. We just want someone who's active and someone who's able to speak on Discord. So you can see, we're gold 3, ranked 600, something like that. So it's a decent guild all around, pretty strong. We're not looking to be the strongest. If you're looking to just whale it out and get the highest guild rank through guild battles, that's not what we're going after. But we do want active players. So this is the guild battle that we're doing today in our guild. We're doing pretty well so far, but our guild tends to have a lot of bullies in it. And what do I mean by that? They like to pick on teams that are weaker than them, but when there's strong teams, they don't necessarily like to go up against them as much. Now we're getting better and better, and we're slowly kicking out the people who are not participating. We don't have any Monte-only teams left, so that's good. But again, we want active people for both guild battles and especially for raids, in future, like duo and quattro content that's coming out. So if you're interested, just put a comment below, and I'll get in contact with you on that. But again, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this content, if it was helpful, please comment, like, and subscribe. And I will see you guys again on another episode of FFBE War of the Visions. Take care.